This is Art Television.
Also, for today's talk, I did mention that I will try and focus on what happens when you get deeper meditations and nimittas and stuff. And please don't ever feel, oh, he's not really talking about my meditation today, my meditation's hopeless. But never think like that, because sometimes all those times you sit down and attempt to calm the mind, to bring stillness to your mind, it is amazing just how that a few times you think you're getting nowhere, but all of that good energy is all building up. And eventually, you get the beautiful meditations. They come automatically. It's nothing, not really up to you. And the simile which I usually give to illustrate this was a simile of this gentleman who came to Australia as a refugee. And in his home country, he was very skilled, very highly educated, I think a doctor or something. But when he came to Australia, his qualifications weren't respected. They weren't acknowledged. So he had to get any work, and so he got work on a building site. He worked really hard on Monday, all day. At the end of the day, when he went home, his wife asked, "How much did you earn today?" He said, "They gave me nothing. I worked hard all day, and I came home and got nothing." And he did the same on Tuesday and Wednesday. Worked really hard and got no pay at all. And he thought to himself, oh, in Australia they just exploit migrants and refugees. But he had nothing else to do on Thursday and Friday, so he went to work on Thursday as well. And he just worked really hard on Thursday. On Friday when he went to work, he didn't work hard at all. And at sort of midday, the boss called him in and gave him a big pay packet. And when he went home afterwards, he said, "I finally figured out how it works in Australia. From now on, I'm only going to go to work on Friday." And that's not just a joke. That is just about meditation. You come to meditate on we started on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Oh, I'm not getting anywhere, I'm giving up. And then you sort of come to one meditation, it also comes together and you have a very nice meditation. That's the nature of this. You're actually building up energy, believe it or not, when you're sitting down there and you think it's not working. Yes, something is happening. You're inclining, learning, growing in your ability to be mindful and kind and let things be. And as you do that more and more, it's only a matter of time before some really nice meditations happen. And just how close are you? You don't know, you can't know. And there's the old Buddhist simile of this big water jar. If you've ever been to Asia, there are these big water jars. And you can see the water dripping into them. Drip, drop, drip, drop. But you don't know how much water's in the jar. And you think it's going to be forever to fill up. But then one day you're just sitting close to it and then drip, and it starts to overflow. So you don't know how close you are, or how far you are. But give yourself the benefit of the doubt. And so little by little, it's eventually you get the paycheck. If you haven't got it yet, the check's in the mail. That's what they used to say. But anyway, but actually how it works, we learn little by little just how it works. And it is learning how to be content and satisfied. In other words, one of the key things in your meditation, are you happy to be here? Really, or do you want to get somewhere else? Are you really happy just to be sitting here with a dull mind? Or do you want it to be really bright and beautiful with all the lights and everything else? Because if you do, then you put this big obstacle in the way of your meditation. And the simile behind that, for those of you who haven't heard this one before, this was a simile of one of the monks from here, who many years ago, when Kashirina jail had just been opened up, he was invited by the prisoners to go there and teach the prisoners there about levitation. About meditation. And so he used to go every week or 2 weeks. And then after a while, they liked his character, so they invited him to stay a little bit longer. Just they can give him a cup of tea and a cup of coffee or whatever he wanted. And so they were just chatting informally to him. And one of the things they asked him, this was the time when they asked this monk, what's it like being a Buddhist monk in a monastery in Western Australia? What do you guys do? And so he started it off by saying, we're supposed to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. 4 o'clock? Even murderers don't have to get up that time. What bad karma did you monks do to have to get up so early? Because, in jail you don't have to get up early. Well, then what do? Can you watch the movies? Late night movie? No, we don't have TV in monasteries. We meditate. Okay, can understand that. Well, what about your breakfast? Yeah, we do have a breakfast. Not all the monks have breakfast. Some do, some don't. And over here, as you know, I get spoiled. It's one of the reasons why monks like coming over to teach. But over in Bodhinyana Monastery, I usually get like a cup, 3 Weetabix in it, and some milk and banana if there's one there, and a cup of tea. That's my breakfast. And when we told them things like that over in Kashirina jail, they said, in jail you can get pancakes, you can bacon and eggs, you can get anything you want there. You can get noodles, you can get everything. And then he said, well, what do you do after breakfast? I said, maybe you saw Ajahn Brahmadi this morning. There's a big backhoe over there and a concrete truck. And monks, we do a lot of hard work. And the prisoner said, they never get us to do that hard work. What about for lunch? And those of you who've been over to Bodhinyana Monastery, how do we eat? We put everything all in one bowl. All goes in together. So, I remember the time, this happened very often, and on spaghetti bolognese, on the top of that was strawberry ice cream. Have you never had strawberry ice cream on spaghetti bolognese? You don't know what you're missing. It is disgusting, I agree. They just went on top, okay, fair enough. Just as you were disgusted, those prisoners were disgusted as well. They would get away with that in jail. We'd go on strike or something. We always thought of going on strike as monks, but that's what we do all the time. Just sit down and do nothing. But anyway, so what about in the afternoon? What can you do in the afternoon? Can you play sport? Like have a game of football, footy, or tennis or something? No, we can't do that. It's also against our rules. We sometimes thought, because I was from UK, I thought of starting a soccer team. Now, I think it'd be very nice, because then you could actually play the Catholics or the Anglicans or the Muslims or something, and get some interracial harmony in Perth. But then we can't do that. You know why? Because as a monk, I have to play by Buddhist principles. And if I was playing by Buddhist principles, well, what are those principles? Number 1, if you've got the ball, let go. Give up, you have it. If they can't score a goal, you score one for them. Compassion. So it wouldn't work. So we don't do anything in the afternoon except more meditation. Oh, crikey. And apparently, I did check this out, the prisoners did ask the monk, don't you sometimes get fed up with meditation? The trouble is, we have to be honest. He said, yeah, sometimes. he said. But no, it's only just passing things. The peace and the stillness are really nice. But what about your evening meal? What do you have for evening meal? Dinner? We don't have dinner in monasteries. Maybe a cup of tea, or if you're lucky, or a bit of chocolate. That's all. Well, even in solitary confinement, you can get a nice 3-course meal. So, well, after your cup of tea in the evening, what do you do then? You know, could you play cards, have a game of poker? We can't even do that as well, because, you know, some monks, they can actually read through the cards. It's really unfair. You think that's true? Oh, I can't resist this story. There's this one nun. Not any nun here, quite a while ago. She was quite well known. She was teaching a retreat in UK. And after the retreat was finished, you know, she was getting a lift from the retreat centre, whichever one it was, over in UK, and then taken to Heathrow Airport to get a flight out. Next, I think it's back to her monastery. And anyway, on the way they had to have some lunch. And of course the monks have to eat before 12. So they had managed to find a nice little restaurant, reasonably quiet, but it was situated next to a British pub. So the pub here, the restaurant was next door. But the only way to get into the restaurant, you had to go through the pub to get into the restaurant. But you know, she walked quickly into the restaurant. And then once she was in the restaurant, they had the meal. And when she was finished, the driver, and I was also accompanying her back to, where was it, somewhere in Europe, has some extra coins left. What can I do with these coins? It's a waste of time taking them on the aircraft and not worth changing, not enough. So there was one of these, what they call in Australia, pokey machines in this pub. So as the driver, you know, the layperson, was coming out, she put a couple of coins into the pokey machine, pulled the handle, of course nothing happened, just getting rid of the coins. And she put another coin in the pokey machine. And that was just when the nun came walking out. And the conversation, very brief, was the driver said to the nun, "You've got all the good karma, you pull the handle." And in a moment of lack of mindfulness, the nun did pull the handle. Yeah. This is not exaggerated. I checked this out many times. It was true. Jackpot. Well, I don't know what symbols come out, ding, 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 and ding, 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 and all this money started pouring out from the machine onto the nun's robe. We're not supposed to touch the money at all. And all onto the floor. And, you know, when these things happen, you can't sort of avoid it and ignore it and think it didn't happen. And everybody in the pub who was having a drink, you know, stopped. And they looked in sort of awe of this nun who just won the lottery, or the jackpot from the thing. And then the barman rang the bell. Ding, 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 ding. And they didn't know what that meant. He said, it's a tradition in this pub, if somebody wins the jackpot on this machine, poker machine, then you have to buy everybody a round of drinks. So a Buddhist nun had to buy everybody in the pub a gin and tonic, a beer, a double scotch, or whatever they wanted. So that was a good lesson. If ever you're in a pub or anywhere, please don't even touch those machines. Because if you win, you're in bigger trouble than ever. So anyway, those little funny stories. But no, we don't play cards or anything. We do more meditation. What time do you go to bed? He asked. Bed? Most of the monks, we sleep on the floor. We don't have beds in monasteries. You see it in my cave, I haven't got a bed, sleep on the floor there. Oh, wow. Even the worst prisoners they give a nice bed to. We don't have to sleep on the floor. And the monastery is far more austere than any prison. That's honest. And here I was seen inside a prison, they're physically, they can be quite comfortable. Monasteries are much more austere. So one of these prisoners, they were just forgetting where they were. And they said to this monk, who they liked, they had a lot of kindness towards him. He'd shown them a lot of kindness. And they said to this monk, "That's terrible in the place where you live. Why don't you come in here and stay with us instead?" And they had a point. But when he told me that, after finishing laughing, and all the other monks he shared it with, they were laughing, then the point of the story is not a funny story, but it really opens up some insight. Why is it, even for you, this is like a monastery for a week or 9-10 days, why is it so hard to come in here and get a place to stay here? Why is there always a waiting list to join Bodhinyana Monastery or Dhammasala, all these other monasteries we build? Why is there a waiting list to come in here? There's a waiting list of people trying to get out of jail. And that informed me, it let me understand what is a prison and what is freedom. It doesn't matter the place around you. Karnak Prison Farm up the road doesn't have a wall. Bodhinyana Monastery, we have a wall. Which is a prison. It's not the infrastructure or the buildings around you. What a prison is any place you don't want to be. Freedom is any place you want to be. So like that monk I mentioned was put in jail in Thailand for 2 years. He was happy in jail. It was like a retreat for him, and he was serious. 2 years of peace and quiet. And he was happy to be there. So you could not really call that a prison. That was Chakun Siddhi Muni, a very inspiring monk. And you can be in a 5-star hotel, 6-star, 7-star. If you don't want to be there, you're in a jail. You can be meditating here. Do you feel free? Or are you in a prison? If you're meditating, you don't want to be here. You're fed up. How long do I have to meditate for? Oh, crikey, another hour. Ooh. When's lunch? When's lunch coming? Can we make lunch a bit earlier? Then you put yourself in a jail. If you're in a relationship, you're having a difficult time, you don't want to be in that relationship. Your relationship is now a prison. If you're happy to be here, then you're free. If you're in a job you hate, then you're in a prison. You go to the office in the morning, it's like going into jail. You can't wait till you get evening release, day release or week release or something. But if you're happy to be in your job, then it's freedom, it's joy. But especially with meditation, sometimes if you think this is not working, not happening, just ask yourself, are you happy to be here? Are you content and easily satisfied? If you are, then you feel freedom. And that freedom gets bigger and more intense and deeper. So that's coming towards the heart of meditation. But actually, how does that freedom work? And how can it, because a lot of times, you've asked this in the questions and some of you in the interviews, you say, well, what's the difference between this, like being happy to be here, and being lazy? What's the difference between being content and making progress in your meditation? Surely you've got to do something. And to answer that question, this is another simile which I developed. And I said this so many times, this simile, but people really love it. I remember when I was giving a talk over actually online and Zoom, to the Singaporeans, Hong Kongese, and Indonesians and Malaysians. This was one of the talks which they loved the most. This was just before New Year. And that was the talk on the lotus simile. The lotus closed up at night time. We've got so many lotuses up there. It's one of the symbols of Buddhism, a lotus. And so when the night time, the lotus closes up. And it's nice to be able to look at nature and learn from nature and understand just what it's teaching us. Because when that lotus is closed up, you look on the outermost petals of that lotus. They're usually like corrugated and they're really tough. And they've got no real colour to them, no scent. Often they're dirty, they've got dust on them. Because that outermost sheath of petals, you call them petals, of the lotus, that protects what's inside from damage. But then what happens in the morning, when the sun rises and that sun hits the outermost petal of the lotus sort of slowly opens up to reveal the next layer of petals. And the first real petals, they've got colour, they've got a bit of fragrance, but they're still quite tough because they're close to the dangers of the external world. You can start to see that now the sun can strike that petal, that layer of petals, and they too can open up. So the sun can hit the layer of petals inside that, the second or third or fourth layer of petals. One by one, when they receive the warmth and light of the sun, then they can open up. And the deeper you go inside the lotus, the more refined, the more, you might even say, profound, beautiful, subtle, fragrant are those petals. If you go deeper and deeper, you get some incredible petals inside there. They're always in there, but we need to somehow open them up to reveal them. And of course, you know what that lotus means. That's you, your body and mind. Somehow we have to open up our body and our mind, stage by stage. And even the most unlikely lotus, you look at it on the outside, it's all tough and scarred and damaged and dusty, no fragrance, no beauty at all. It's had a hard life. But then it starts opening up and it surprises you just how beautiful are those petals inside. And again, I can't resist this story. Now you think as a monk you should be wise, you should be kind, you should not sort of discriminate or judge people. But this was that story a few years ago here, when we were starting a retreat. I think it was a January retreat because it was a warm day. And I was just hanging out in the reception area where the person was seeing whether people were booked in or not booked in. And this guy came up. He was a guy, Australian guy, Caucasian, big guy, and with Australian national dress, which you know what I mean, the singlet, shorts and thongs. And because he wasn't wearing that much, you can see all his tattoos, lots of tattoos all over him. And I just stereotyped him immediately, and I said, "Excuse me, sir, but this is the meditation retreat centre. If you're visiting some of your friends in Carnet Prison Farm, it's up the road." Stupid monk. And anyway, he said, "No, I've come on the retreat." And his name was on there. Yeah, wow, amazing. Okay, fine. I'd never seen him before, never noticed him before. He was on our retreat. And he was the star meditator of that retreat. And he came to me in the interviews. He said, there's really nice meditations. So what happened? He described it. I was just, wow, that was jhanas. And I don't easily, I confirm that a person's got these deep states of mind. In fact, there was one fellow who wrote a book over in the United States, and all the famous Buddhist meditation masters, and he ranked them. the hardest to get confirmation that you've got a jhana. And guess it was the number one, the hardest in the whole world. Me. I thought it was really. I thought, yeah, I'll go on the top of the list. So, if Ajahn Brahm confirmed you've got a jhana, then certainly. So I don't say these things easily, because I respect these jhanas too much. But this guy, he surprised me. The last person I would have expected, just based on his appearance. That's not the right way of looking at it. But I did that. I learned by my mistake, and so now I don't know who can. And people do surprise me, which is wonderful. But the point was that anybody can do this. It's all inside you. So all you need to do is just open up the lotus. How do you open up the lotus? It's the warmth and the light of the sun. What does that stand for? The warmth? Kindness. You don't open up a lotus when it's really cold. So don't be cold and harsh on yourself. Be really, really kind. And I emphasize that a lot. Sometimes people think I'm too kind. You should be more disciplined. But no, because you're already disciplined enough. All of you always want to come and meditate as much as you can, and you keep quiet. Your discipline's in there because you respect this place. It's a rare opportunity for you. But the kindness is one of the hardest things for you to accept and to practice. To be kind to yourself and all others. Actually, kind to others is pretty easy. But kind to yourself is the hardest. So you learn how to be kind to yourself, and then lotuses start to open up. That was one of the things I thought religion, especially Buddhism, should be so strong on, of kindness. When I saw these Zen monks hitting each other on the back with a stick, I thought, what is that to do with Buddhism? It really never made much sense to me. It's too aggressive, too harsh. It's one of the reasons why that, you saw some of the monks, I knew in Thailand, they're incredibly kind. And I just, how kind can they be? And they just increased the levels of kindness to immense ways. And that inspired me enormously. And that's how I used to meditate, with kindness. And when you have kindness, you also need mindfulness as well, the awareness, that's important. With those two, awareness and kindness, what I coined the term kindfulness. Not just mindfulness, but kindfulness. You're aware of something with this wonderful sense of joy and kindness. And then you can open up the lotus pretty easy. So, another example of what kindfulness is. I said I would teach this sometime to a few people on retreats. Many years ago, when I was a student, in those days, being a student, you had lots of time for playing around and for exploring other disciplines. And, the coursework wasn't that hard. And I thought it was a wonderful thing to do. Because I remember I went up to Cambridge University studying theoretical physics. But I was told when you first went there, they said, look, don't just study physics. We've got some really great teachers, lecturers, professors at this university. Just go to any course, go to any lecture, and just make use of all these great intellectual resources at this university. And I really thought that was an amazing piece of advice. So you could go somewhere else, not just your own subject, and get this very wide education and see what would happen. And it's the same with even here. Just make use of other things if you can possibly make use of them. And little by little, you find that the kindness was something which I really thought was important, but where actually was it, and how do you really practice it? That a lot of times the Buddhists are very good at chanting, may all beings be happy and well, but not you. May all beings be free of suffering, but not that person. We don't know really how to practice it. We chant it, we don't do it. So anyway, again, as a student, of course, you like to read. And so I remember just reading, I really got into Tolstoy, reading War and Peace over there, only a week or something. I didn't do anything else, just read almost night to day. And also I got so into him that I read some of his short stories. And that's where the Emperor's Ring came from. Sorry, no, the Emperor's 3 Questions came from. It was a little book written by Tolstoy, together with a few others, including Dostoevsky. He wrote a little essay in there as well, to try and raise funds for the Jewish community in Tsarist Russia, who were being really discriminated against. Of course, no, Tolstoy wasn't a Jewish person, but he saw there was a need to raise funds for people who were having a very, very hard time. That's what they did. But one of the stories there, it must have been a folk tale somewhere in Russia, because the Emperor's 3 Questions was about this monarch who had it up to here with organized religion. I always say that if you don't like organized religion, then the Buddhist Society of West Australia is for you. We try to organise things, but often we're not organised. But it works okay. So anyhow, why do people in religion always argue? Even like Buddhism, even Theravada Buddhism, my mob, as they say in Australia, why do we always argue? Can you ordain bhikkhunis? Aren't there not ordained bhikkhunis? Should you do it this way? Should you do it that way? We have the forest tradition, we have the Dhammakaya tradition, we have the city tradition, we have Dhammayut, we have Mahanikaya. And over in Sri Lanka, how many sects are there? I sometimes ask them, they said, we don't know, there's too many, we can't count them anymore. And that's true. And why can't we get on? That's just in Theravada. What about the Mahayana, the Tibetan tradition, and the Vajrayana, and oh crikey, there's so many traditions. What's going on? We try and teach other people to work together. We can't work together ourselves. Oh, how embarrassing. So anyway, we try to do our very best. We try to, sometimes trying to create harmony, people start to criticize you for that. Anyway, so this was an emperor who had it up to here, with people always thinking their religion is the best. So what he did, he tried to find out his own religion, make one up himself. He was an emperor, he has the authority. So, he talked to people, but then eventually it was in life is where he got all his greatest teachings on how to get a good religion. And he realized that the only thing you need to have a successful religion, a spiritual path, which is not just to become peaceful and deep inside, but also so he could use that to look after his responsibilities as an emperor. So what he did, he realized there's 3 questions, only 3 questions you need to know the answers for. Okay, only 3 questions you need to know the answers for. So remember tonight, when you write down the questions, forget about them. Because you only need the answers to 3 questions, and I'm going to give you those answers now. So you don't need to write any more questions tonight. Is that right? No, of course, it should work that way, but it never does. But anyway, the 3 questions, the Emperor's 3 questions, you have the answers to those, and you don't need to ask a question ever again. And of course, many of you know those 3 questions, the Emperor's 3 questions. When is the most important time? Who is the most important person? And what is the most important thing to do? And because it wasn't actually Buddhism, Buddhist story, it wasn't a Christian story, it was just a folk tale from Russia somewhere, I thought this was great because it had no vested interest at all. It wasn't promoting your own particular view, but I did actually adopt this as one of the most powerful methods of meditation. Emperor's 3 questions. Of course, now is the most important time. And the next question, who is the most important person? Honestly, when I read the answer, it wasn't what I expected, but it was much closer to the truth. This is how insight works. You think you know the answer, but when actually you see the answer, you think, wow, that's much more truthful, practical, accurate. And the answer was the person right in front of you right now. So Desi, you're the most important person in the world to me right now. No longer. Now you are. Now you are. Who's the most important person now when I've got my eyes closed? I am. It's practical. The one in front of you, the most important person in the whole world. I always thought it'd be some big shot somewhere. But do you remember, sometimes you have a question to ask somebody and they're really important. And you go up to them to ask a question and say, oh no, later, I'm busy. How does that feel? You're not really important to them, are you? That could be the person you live with in your life. You ask them, oh, and all these stories they come up. This is one of my favourite stories about the little kid, maybe 6, 7 years of age. He's waiting for his daddy. Daddy was at work, came home late as usual. And the kid at the door said, Daddy, welcome home. How much do you earn at the office? Look, I'm tired. It's none of your business, said Daddy. Oh, Daddy, how many dollars do you earn an hour at work? Look, I told you, I'm too tired and busy, nothing to do with you. But Daddy, how many... Right. 3 times I said no, and you keep persisting. You're grounded. Get up to your room. Of course, this was some time ago when going up to your room was a punishment. These days, you can actually play video games, do all sorts of stuff. So I'm told. But anyway, so he sent this little kid up to the room. The only reason was because the daddy was tired. Have you ever done that? You're so tired and worn out, and just little things, like your guitar string is so taut, bing, small thing, makes a big noise. You overreact. So after a cup of coffee or tea or something, the daddy went to his son's room, opened it, and said, I'm sorry, I just exploded and said, send you to your room. I don't know why. You want to know how much I earn at work, but it's actually $20 an hour. $20 an hour at the office. And the son smiled, said, thank you, Daddy. Now could I please borrow $10? And at that, the father, it's a stupid demand. Can I borrow $10? But he said, I'm not going to get angry at my kid twice this evening. So he opened his wallet out and got a $10 bill and gave it to his son. Here you are, son. And then the son opened a little drawer next to his bed and brought out some coins and counted out another $10 in coins. He said, here you are, Daddy. Here's $20. Can I now please have 1 hour of your time? I remember telling that story many times. I remember telling that over somewhere in Indonesia. It was to a journalist, had a little radio show. She was a Muslim. And as soon as I said that, she burst out crying. Because that was her life. She was a single mum. She was working so hard to try and raise her kid. And she realized that never spent time with her kid. Story like that, $20, could I please have 1 hour of your time? So, what is really important? That kindness. And the person right in front of you is a little kid, and you've got some really important decisions to make. That little kid is right in front of you, they're important. What to do? Care. It's the most important thing in the world, to care. Not to cure your kid of all their bad behavior. Those of you who are married or have been married, how many times have you tried to cure your partner of their bad behavior? Where does it get you? No, don't try and cure them with their bad behaviour. Care for them. That's far more powerful. And what was it? The doctor over here, he was... You know, there's one of the nice things about being a monk here for such a long time is you've seen these little kids grow up. They come to the temple when they're little, 2 or 3 years of age, and they grow up with you. So they can always actually got another person they can always see and get some answers to their problems. And this young man, I don't mind, he doesn't mind me letting you know who he is. That was Sumeta, Sirigal Hagenig's son, Nirantala's son. He came to me because he did very well, very smart. He became sort of a doctor. And the first year as a doctor, it was actually in Royal Perth Hospital. And then one of his patients died. It was tragedy because, she was a young girl, about 23. And at the time they didn't expect her to die. But the alarms went off and he tried to save her and couldn't do it. She died. Because he was a doctor on duty there, he was the one who had to tell her husband and their 2 young children, you haven't got a wife anymore. Your little kids have got no mummy. He was sensitive enough. He said it was like a dagger in the heart, just telling the partner and then twisting it twice and having to tell the kids. It hurt him so much. You can maybe get a feeling, but it hurt him much more than you can know. And he said, I can't do this anymore. I feel such a failure. Having to give this hurt as my gift to those wife and that husband and kid. And that's actually, he said, I want to resign. And the doctor studied all his life and he was a really nice person. And it was at that I told him, you've missed the point of being a doctor. That's the purpose of a doctor, is the priority is not to cure people. Because you never will be able to cure them, you'll just be able to delay their death for a while. But eventually, we all have to die. And we don't know, you try your best, and even the best doctors in the world, can't stop some of these tragedies. So I said, your job is not to cure, but just to change it slightly. Make sure that your main purpose in life is to care, not to cure. So you take that patient, care for them to the max. Care as much as possible. And care for the patients. So care for the relations and friends who come to visit. Make caring your priority. And then you will find that even when the people die, they know they've been cared for, and it changes the whole experience. And you don't have to feel guilty because you've done your main purpose. You can't always cure someone, but you can always care for them. You never need to fail at that. And of course, the little extra bonus is if you make caring more important, your priority. Many people under you will get cured, more than normal. And of course, he took that on board. And he's still he's a specialist now. I still can't pronounce it. Please excuse me, bum doctor. You put stuff up, people see what's going on in your colon and intestines and stuff. Even one of our monks, how many of you know Venerable Mudito? He's over in Melbourne right now. But, he had sort of needed to see what's going on inside his intestines. A little bit of blood was coming out. I thought, oh, this could be cancer. So anyway, we sent him over to Dr. Sumeta. And of course, as soon as there was Sumeta, a monk, from Bodhinyana Monastery, number 1 priority, number 2, all paid for. Saved his profession, fair enough. So anyway, those sorts of things are beautiful. because it works. You care rather than cure. So that's actually the Emperor's three questions. Now's the most important time. The one in front of you, the most important person in the whole world, the most important thing to do is to care, not to cure. So what's that to do with meditation? Close your eyes. What are you aware of right now? What are you aware of right in this moment? That is the most important meditation object in the whole world for you. I'm not talking about the breath or the body or nimittas or anything. This right in front of you. Don't try and cure it. If it's defilement, if it's anger, tiredness, whatever, don't try and cure it and get rid of it. It's teaching you something. So let it be. Care for it. And when you care for this moment, whatever it is, you can always meditate. You can open your eyes now if you wish. You can always meditate no matter what you're feeling, what you're experiencing. And you're caring for it. And you get some brilliant meditation that way. And it's something you can do at any time. Even when you're sick and dying. Many of you have been in hospitals and just really sick and really having a difficult time. And say, I can't meditate, I can't even see my breath. I've got pain. I don't know what's happening. Find out. Present moment, be aware right now. Spend time with this present moment. Care for it. You're surprised you start going in. And this is actually the lotus simile. With care, with mindfulness, those two. The lotus opens up. You go inside your body, inside your mind. The nice thing is that when you start going, you don't do this because you want to get rid of the body. You're just watching this body with kindness, with care, with awareness. And it usually focuses on one place in the body, and mostly it goes inside. It's like the lotus. It starts to open up. You don't expect this, it just happens. And you go into one part of the body, usually, and that starts to get more and more relaxed. The more you care for things, the more it relaxes it. I don't know how often you've been in hospitals or something, but sometimes I remember being in a hospital. I was being woken up in the middle of the night because I had to take some stuff to get rid of any stuff in my intestines. I can do a test the next day. And I remember just being woken up and seeing this nurse just asked me just to drink this little stuff. And to me it was just, she was like an angel, in heaven or something. I'd just woken up. But the smile, the kindness there was so strong. Have you ever had those experiences of seeing someone who's so kind? Their kindness just relaxes you and does healing stuff. So I never underestimate the power of kindness. Real kindness, deep kindness, the caring, the opening the door of your heart to this moment with beautiful energy. Your energy goes to them. And anyway, that when you start to do that, your body just opens up, it relaxes to the max. And then you go inside. This the lotus, the body is on the outside. And it goes inside to your mind. And the first thing you notice, again, this thing called time, is we're so concerned with the past, with the future. It's amazing just how concerned we are. You don't have to be, believe it or not. Sometimes we're just afraid. And that fear, something might go wrong. Leave that fear alone. The best way, your health, happiness, well-being is made right now. So we say, I'll do it tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow I'll start meditating. Yes, today I've got things to do, but tomorrow, yes, all that worries about the future. Right here in this retreat center, you can be here right now. No one is asking you to plan. It's days until you have to leave. You don't have to pack your bags at all until maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes before you leave. Why do it now? wait to the very last moment, or even don't do it at all. So little by little, we go into the center of time. It's like time is this layer of petals, and it opens up. And you go inside to now. And that is a big thing, just being in the present moment, being here. You learn a lot, actually what's happening now, rather than worrying about what's going to happen, or trying to recall what really happened. You know what I said last night, the past is usually your memory of the last time you remembered that. So that Chinese whispers game, that really happens. And that's why what you remember happened probably didn't. Something close, but not quite the same. So little by little you learn much more from the present moment than you ever learned from the past. So you go inside the center of time. As you go inside the center of time, this layer of petals, now you find that without past and future, there's nothing much you can really think about. Most of your thoughts about plans, what you're going to do next, or there may be memories of complaining usually about who did what to whom and why and when, or what you did or what somebody should have done. In the present moment you're already pretty silent. You don't even have the thought, what should I do next? Imagine that was all taken away from you. No past, no future. You really are right here. What could you think about? Basically, the thought starts to become really quiet and even disappears. And that's why you can see these beautiful sunsets without just seeing the words. That's why that you can feel the wind on your face. As I came in here earlier, it's just beautiful feeling the wind on your face and the cool, I wouldn't even call it cold, like the soft concrete on my feet as I walked in here. It's beautiful feelings. You can only notice those when you're silent. Sometimes that people can be walking all over the place and not feel anything, simply because they're in the world of their thoughts, imaginations. So you go into silence, from present moment awareness to silent present moment awareness. And that is more than enough, basically, to have a beautiful retreat. Just being silent. I enjoy that so much. Even I told monks this and told lay people as well. When I give a talk, believe it or not, I'm silent inside. Sometimes I don't know what I'm saying. Sometimes it comes out and says, "Who said that? That was amazing." Sometimes this is an old story. But I don't think or worry what I'm going to say next. But anyway, when you get to the silence inside, that's where lots of insights can come up. But you go deeper than that. Because inside the silence, that's a beautiful, fragrant layer of petals. That opens up. And inside of that, you see your breath. Because it's the only thing which is moving. Breathing in, breathing out. And you just see it, you don't do it. You don't choose. Okay, it's time to watch the breath. You don't do stuff like that. You just keep being mindful, being kind in this present moment, and the lotus opens up by itself. You're just watching the breath. And the breath has many different levels. In the Anapanasati Sutta, you can watch the in-breath, the out-breath. Only one of those at a time. Don't watch the in-breath and the out-breath at the same time, please. Of course you can't. Long breath, short breath, it doesn't matter. It started to confuse me when I started meditating. You can do the long breath and the short breath. What is actually long? How long is long? What if your breath is in the middle somewhere? It's not long, it's not short, it's the sort of average. Does that mean you're not doing it right? Of course you're doing it right. You're aware of the breath, that's enough. And you kind of know whether it's long or short, whatever. But let the breath do the breathing. You just do the watching, the observing, and the kindness. Not just the awareness, the kindness. Little by little. Then the breath just gets really nice and peaceful. And little by little you start to see more of it. You're watching the breath in, out. So that is going to the right. This is your right. To the left, right, left. That's what you see first of all, in, out, in, out. Then afterwards, as you get more relaxed, more mindful, see right from the beginning of an in-breath. You see the pause. Right to the end of the out-breath. See the pause. Right. Beginning to the end. That's a full awareness of the breath. And of course, it calms down by itself. Why does it calm down? You're not doing anything. You're resting. The car is parked. So the engine is just purring. And it just gets very, very soft. And of course you'll need less oxygen and it becomes more beautiful. Because you're not wasting energy on thinking, doing, planning, forcing. All that energy just starts coming back inside of you. And that energy becomes joy, happiness. You know when you're tired, maybe when you get up in the morning, you haven't had a cup of coffee or a cup of tea yet, and you're a misery to even talk with. You have a cup of tea or coffee or something, get some energy up, you're much happier. Okay, that's a sort of a coarse approximation, but it's true. Energy is happiness. So little by little, as the mind just gets some more boost of its energy, the happiness gets boosted as well. That is when the breath starts to naturally, it just appears beautiful, it's delightful. So you're going into the lotus even more, to the breath, full awareness of the breath, a very calm breath, a delightful breath. Just joy and happiness has come. Big time. Inside that lotus, whoa. It's amazing just the patterns there. And it's so soft and delicate and so fragrant. So as you're watching your breath, it becomes, wow, this is amazing. And when you're not afraid of the joy and happiness, that joy and happiness can just really grow very large. And as it grows large and larger, just petals open up. And the breath has just done its job, and inside that breath is the joy and happiness of the nimittas.